Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining this morning. And with us today is our head of customer experience, Georgia. For anyone who hasn't met Georgia yet, you should have. And we have lots of people joining in. I still see a lot of numbers climbing here, so we're just going to give it maybe 2 more minutes to let some people get connected, and then we will jump right in. All right. Well, we have still lots of people signing in. It is early in the morning for everyone on the Pacific Coast, so we'll see lots of people coming in. Thanks everyone for joining this morning. This might be one of our biggest update meetings, so that's super exciting. So thanks so much for joining us this morning. We're going to walk through a little bit of what you all should already be seeing on your Minga. Is our Minga update, excuse me, version 6.7, and it's really focused around some fairly big improvements and expansions on our Hall Pass module. So my name's Jason, and as I already mentioned, but for those of you just joining with us as well, is our head of customer experience, Georgia.
Hi.
And we are going to just jump right in. So the update went out on Saturday, so it shouldn't have had any real changes to how your Minga and Hall Pass module is updating today, but you will see a lot of new features that are going to be available, and we're going to talk a little bit about them and go through some of them today. Just to be, ensure everyone gets the help they need, or if you need assistance, your one sort of, the bat phone to your customer experience manager is always support@minga.io. We'll connect you directly with your CEM, Georgia, or someone from her team. So if you, have any questions at any point, or if you get interrupted on this call, I know things are always happening at school, then please don't hesitate to reach out to Georgia at support@minga.io and her team, and someone will get back to you shortly or set up a one-on-one. We will also, we are recording this meeting, and we will make it available offline as well for everyone. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. So I guess, first thing, and it's always really very valuable and super helpful to us, is that most of the feedback on the improvements and changes and updates that we made in this version came directly from you, came directly from our community of schools. And so, this is all common feedback we are hearing from people. So thank you so much for taking the time to share, your thoughts around what we're doing and how we're working on and what we can do to make things better. And then we put that in a big pot and boil it all up based on feedback from hundreds of schools. And And that's really what guides a lot of the work we do. So kicking it off, and we're going to walk through a little bit and show you a little bit on how these things work. But probably the biggest fundamental change that or update that's been added is we now offer 2 workflows with hall passes. The automatic ending workflow that you're all familiar with today, if you're using our hall pass module, which is that passes will auto expire at predetermined intervals or at periods that teachers set when they create passes. But we now also offer another workflow, which is manually ended hall passes, which means that you can set it up so that staff. Jen, it is set up as a webinar because we have so many attendees today. Jen just mentioned that you can't type or in the chat box or access camera. I can turn chat on, and I will turn chat on here. So let's do that. Maybe I can't. There we go. I'm going to turn chat on. Okay, chat is now on. So actually, let's just throw things in chat. So if people have feedback and stuff, thanks for that note, Jen. So back to this. So in the manually ended hall passes, it means that you can now set passes up. For example, if I'm a teacher and I let a student wants to go to the bathroom, the student can create the pass, but the pass will not end until, depending on how it's set up, either the student returns and the teacher ends the pass, or the student returns and there's also an option where the student can end the pass. So manually ended workflows have a lot of nuances, and there's a lot of other little features that come along with it. But that's a very big change to our hall pass workflow. Our recommended best practices workflow will still be auto ending hall passes, and we'll talk about that a bit when we get into it. You also now, teachers and staff, there's a setting that allows teachers and staff to add notes to hall passes. So if you want to put a note on a hall pass as to why that hall pass has been created, there's an option for that. When notes are enabled, they are optional. Teachers and staff now have access to the hall pass reporting interface for all the hall passes that they have created. So lots of cool stuff there, but it basically allows teachers and staff to view a history of all their hall passes that they've created. A big update that I think will make a lot of people happy and will save a lot of time is we have a brand new Blackout schedule manager. It's got a lot more function and flexibility, and actually ends up being a lot simpler. So one of those, simplest is best, but we'll give schools a much better option to manage things like different block schedules or moving block schedules or variable days and all sorts of stuff like that. We'll show that off a bit today. And then we have some reporting navigation updates, which how the reporting interface works has changed a little bit. So they'll, it's not going to be a huge change, but it will be something to be aware of, so that reports, you can still get through reports, no problem. And one kind of last big thing here is there are new settings under the hall pass types. So when you're creating or editing hall passes, the types of hall passes, this would be an admin or manager options only, is that you can, there are new settings to restrict passes to groups of students. An example would be that you have students that, say, a group of students that would have unlimited access to a wellness center. So you could actually create a wellness pass that is, looking at the second feature there, ignores restrictions like numbers of passes or pass times and things like that. But that pass is only available to that group of students. So, and you can upload a list or add students to that list. And Georgia, as always, if you see other things, little nuances, because there are a lot of little updates in here that you want to add at any time, don't hesitate to jump in. So I'm going to go from there. And we are going to stop sharing this. And we're going to share my desktop, which is always scary, but I have two browsers. So I want to be sharing everything here. So you've probably seen me do a demo like this before. On the left-hand side, I have the administrator interface. So this is a browser connected via my principal Skinner. So that's an admin. And then on the right-hand side, I have a student, and that's Bart Simpson. So student Bart and principal Skinner. And jumping right in, kind of going through our list of the things that we have here. Option number one, jumping right into the Hall Pass Manager. Under settings, one little thing here that you will see under this is that the Hall Pass Manager has changed. We now have a settings page and a restrictions page, and they're separate. So this will, a little change for how you navigate around. And up here, up at system settings for Hall Pass settings, you'll notice this how do Hall Passes end, and automatic, or there's a new manually option. There will be a little bit of change, but automatic and manual are the two main options. And just to clarify again, in an automatic pass, when Bart over here comes to create a Hall Pass, say that restroom pass right there, you'll notice that it is his default time is 5 minutes. If I was to add that to, let's see who I have over here, to a teacher, and I create that Hall Pass. So just like everyone's familiar with, Bart's Hall Pass comes up on his ID and pops right up here on the screen, and I'm counting down automatically. On the dashboard, you'll see that that pass is counting down as well. And when that 5 minutes is up, this Hall Pass will automatically end. So I'm just going to end it early so I don't have to do that. So this is exactly how most people's Mingas are working today. Those Hall Passes will end automatically. Thanks, Georgia. You're on chat. Okay, awesome. So just as we'd always expected, the Hall Pass will, end automatically, and that's how that data will finish. And once that Hall Pass is ended, of course, it's no longer on the dashboard unless you were to look at it under expired passes. You'll notice the dashboard has lots of new navigations, so lots of new options here as well. One of those is how you filter passes. If I want to add ended passes in here, I could just simply add that to the filter, and we'd see that that pass that Bart has ended is already over here, is gone, or is on the ended list because it's expired. So if I pop over here to settings, and I'm going to turn on manually ended passes, you'll notice a new setting that comes up, which is the Hall Pass reporting timeout. So this is default set to 60 minutes. And this number means if someone forgets to end a pass and that pass keeps running forever, because the big difference in a manually ended Hall Pass is that someone does need to end it or it will just keep going. After 60 minutes, we will stop counting the duration of that pass for reporting purposes. So it means if a student someone forgot to end a pass for a student for 3 days, it's not going to show up that they were outside of the classroom for 3 days if you run a report. So that is what the Hall Pass reporting timeout is. And I'm going to capture a few other things. I'm going to turn on teachers and staff can add notes to Hall Passes, so we'll be able to see that as well. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to shorten this duration to 1 minute for default student created Hall Passes for the duration, so that we'll see a pass expire that is an ended pass here. So I just made those changes. I'm going to refresh both my screens so that those changes take effect. pop back to the dashboard, you'll see I'll keep picking off a couple little differences here. We also now have an auto refresh option on the dashboard. So that means that, if you have if you want the hall pass dashboard running, say in an admin office or in the front office, so that you can see passes for students currently out, you can turn on auto refresh, and every 60 seconds, the screen will automatically refresh and update to show all the active passes on campus. So I still had students can create passes. So that means students can still create their own pass. But in this case, students cannot manually end their pass because it's turned off. So that means that a student can create their pass, but a teacher must end it. So we're going to pop over to Bart again. So Bart needs to go to the bathroom, ask the teacher, Miss Marge, can I go to the bathroom? Miss Marge says yes. Please go ahead and create your hall pass. Bart creates the hall pass. You'll see now it's just a 1-minute pass because I changed that setting. Needs to be a tag to the teacher, and I create the hall pass. Oh, Bart must have had a restriction. Oh, Bart does have a restriction because the wait time between student created hall passes is turned on to 60 minutes right now. So that means in that case, of course, I created a pass a minute ago with Bart, and then Bart would not be able to, create a new pass for 60 minutes after that. So I'm just going to refresh that screen so that that takes effect. These settings, when they do take effect, or when you make changes to the big settings like this, that they will take effect in most cases the next time the student logs in. So they might not be actually immediate for a student that's currently logged into Minga. Here I'm going to create a hall pass. Now I will create it. And so now I've created my new hall pass. It was a 1-minute pass, and it is a manually ending pass. So over here in dashboard, we will see that pass is running here, and I'll stretch out the screen a bit so we can see all the info. So there's my student who has the pass, my ID number, who is a tag to, and it's counting down here from for time here. Now, while this pass is running and it's going to expire, I'm going to also pop into teacher tools. And under my hall pass tools as a teacher, when I create a pass, so I'm going to give a athletics pass for 5 minutes, or let's give it to 3 minutes. And I'm going to give that to a student. I want to give a athletics pass to Lisa. Lisa has a basketball game today. So you'll see here now, as a teacher, when creating this pass, I'm able to add a note to this hall pass. And now I'm going to give this to Lisa. And create that pass. And so now we get to see a few new things happening here. First one is that Bart's pass has now expired. So he had a 1-minute pass, but he's now still outside of the classroom, and his pass has expired. You'll notice that on his dashboard, it's gone red, or on his ID, it's gone red on his screen. And on our dashboard, that is now highlighted red right here as an overdue pass. And you'll see that I have overdue passes turned on in the filters here. So I see them. When I refresh that, those overdue passes are still going to be updated here. And that's because Bart's teacher has not ended this pass yet. Actually, probably show that. There's Marge. I'm going to log in as Marge real quick here. And under view all passes for Marge, Marge is also able to filter down to just her passes. So this is that now I'm viewing this as a teacher, and Marge is able to view this as just her passes on the dashboard. So when Bart finally comes back from the bathroom, he's been overdue here, Marge now ends the pass. So Bart, you're back, you're late. And Marge ends the pass and confirms that time. And Bart's pass is now ended. When he looks at his student ID, that pass is now gone. And it's gone from Marge's view of her passes as well. So I'm going to log back in with my admin. So big changes on the pass ending functionalities there. And there are also under the Hall Pass Manager, under settings, there is an option where students can manually end their pass. That is not a recommended setting, but we did have some requests for it. That would mean that if a student had their mobile device and they left class, they could end the pass right away. So there's like lots of reasons why that wouldn't necessarily make sense. But the other option there, the only other option is, of course, this Hall Pass reporting timeout. That is as a setting, but we don't really recommend changing that too much either, because that could have big implications on how reporting data comes up. So just to cover off this, this is a pretty big fundamental change to how Hall passes are going to operate on campus. On the plus side, one advantage of this workflow is that it could create, a more accurate representation of how long students are outside of the classroom for. If a student went to the bathroom, if we use auto ending passes and they came back in 2 minutes, of course, we still count that pass time as 5 minutes. But if they came back in 20 minutes, we still count that pass time as 5 minutes with an auto ending pass. With a manually ending pass, when done correctly, if the student came back in 2 minutes, we'd show 2 minutes. If a student came back in 20 minutes, we'd show 20 minutes. So that is, one of the biggest advantages to manually ending passes. So the flip side is, what is the biggest disadvantage? Well, I've kind of been picking on this one. When used properly, manually ending passes will give very accurate data. The downside is that if a teacher forgets to end a pass, or the student doesn't come back in and class ends and goes somewhere else, basically, if the pass does not get ended for any reason, it's going to count as basically 60 minutes plus the duration of the pass. So if it was a 5-minute pass, it would count as 65 minutes on reporting for outside the classroom. If this Hall Pass reporting timeout wasn't on there, that could run indefinitely. So if 5% or 10% of your passes are not ended, or people forget to end them, it's going to have a very big impact on the data in reporting. So the biggest downside is that if a pass is forgotten to be ended, it's going to show very inaccurately the data for students outside of the classroom. So in our experience through workflow testing, we do see that that number does tend to be fairly high, which is why at the beginning we introduced auto ending passes as a as our default workflow. And just to reiterate my point from earlier, auto ending passes is still our best practices recommendation for how to use the Hall Pass module. But we do support manual ending passes now, and we will support you if that is a workflow that you feel is better for you or for your school. So, but please, don't hesitate to reach out, set up an appointment with your customer experience manager and walk through the pros and cons on how it's going to work on campus. Walk through what training looks like for your staff for this manually ended pass workflow, and we will help you every step of the way. So we would definitely recommend, if that's a route you want to go, please connect with us and we'll, walk you through specifically how it's going to work. And that way there'll be no surprises when we see data in one way or another when you look at reporting, or if there's any other nuances on how it might work in your environment. So I covered off there too. We had a chance to see. So here's your Hall Pass Notes option. That Hall Pass Notes applies to both manual and auto ending passes. And there's a setting under settings on your Hall Pass manager. So teachers and staff can add notes to passes. And I'll just cover that off one more time. So under teacher tools, when I assign the Hall Pass, there's my media pass, and Bart is grabbing a TV for the class. And we'll give him a 5-minute pass to do that. There's Bart. And Bart's pass was created. And when Bart would look on his ID, he'd see his media pass, and also the note will be right on that pass. And then in reporting, you'll see here there is Bart is grabbing a TV for the class. There's a little note icon on the dashboard, and you can hover over it and it will tell you the note that was on there. And Lisa's pass, you can see, is 5 minutes now overdue. And I created it and I was the principal and I forgot to end it. So this is a case where that forgotten pass will continue to count. So I'll end Lisa's pass as well. And now that we have a few ended passes, under reports, we're going to see lots of new layout and setting here under reports. A few big changes is how the report filters are updated a little bit. You can multi-select report filters now. So if I want to look at all of my media passes and my Hall passes and my fountain passes, I can multi-select options and they will show up here. I can also remove them just with the little X's. And when you do make changes to filters, you now select the apply filters to generate that report. So you can make multiple changes to filters and then apply filter to generate that report. And you'll see a new report here as well, which is the overdue Hall Pass summary. And in that case, I actually don't have any data for this one yet. The reports for these summary reports do run about an hour behind. So that's why we don't have any data yet. But under our Hall Pass history report, that one's always up to date in real time. So we can see all the passes that I've created this morning. Exactly when those passes started and when they ended. So a few little changes to Hall Pass reporting, and that setting here under Hall Pass settings, where teachers and staff can view their reports. Once, if you turn that on, then teachers will now see the reports tab, and they will have access to all the reporting for any Hall Passes that were tagged to them or they created. So that's going to give teachers views into their reports. So let's get into the new Blackout Schedule Manager. So Blackout schedules are under the restrictions tab on the Hall Pass Manager. This is owners and managers that can operate this. And all the other restrictions, the no party groups, as well as the pass lists, are still the same. But then you'll see the new Blackout schedule or Campus Blackout Schedule Manager, which is right down here, is very new. And in this case, what you do is you do it's a two-step process now instead of a one-step process. So the first thing you set up is a day. This is basically a schedule name, or it's a day schedule that would be set up here. So under, let's say, Wednesday, I'm going to delete this one first and we'll recreate it. So I'm going to add a new schedule for my C blocks. And that's for any days that fall onto my C block schedule. And now I can add times for that days right here as well. So let's say my class first break is from 8:30 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. Then my second break is from 11:10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Then there's a lunch break from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and one more class block. So what I'm doing is basically setting up my blackout schedule so that students cannot create passes, or passes aren't created in between class times, or the first and last 5 minutes of each class in the in-between class times. And my last break would be at 3:15 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And that applies on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are my C block schedules. And now I create that C block schedule and I can make it active. So now this blackout period, it is Wednesday today. So this blackout for C block schedule is going to be applied today. B blocks happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and A blocks happen on Mondays and Fridays. So this works great if your week schedule is the same every week, but if you have a rolling schedule like A block, B block, A block, B block, so that each week the days switch up, you can quickly pop in at the beginning of the week and just adjust your schedule. So now A blocks would be Tuesdays and Thursdays, and B blocks would be Mondays and Fridays. And that will allow you to very easily adjust your schedules here. And let's say that today, on this Wednesday, even though normally Wednesdays are C block schedules, on this Wednesday, it's now a flex day. And, so the whole day is open. You can simply just make that schedule inactive for today. And now that schedule will not apply today for today's flex period. Once the day's over and we go back to normal schedule, you make it active again. So this, we did a lot of review and had a lot of conversations with people around how they were using the blackout schedule. We know it's a very appreciated and loved feature. And we, spend a lot of time looking at how to make the management of these schedules a lot easier. So the ability to activate and inactivate the schedule very easily from the console, as well as quickly adjust or have a handful of different schedules that you can enable or disable depending on what you need for the day, we feel is going to solve a lot of the issues, you can also now multi-select the days that a schedule applies to. So if you have the same block schedule happening every day, this is going to be, very straightforward, or 2 or 3 different block schedules that apply to different days. This is going to make that very, very easy. So these do get applied in real time and instantaneously the moment that they take effect. So if I look at my C block schedule and I have let's see, I'm going to simply make that 8 a.m. to 8:45. So that is going to be applying right now. So now I have currently I'm in a blackout schedule. There is a new setting over here, which turns on or off the ability for teachers and staff to bypass blackout schedules. If you turn that off, that means a teacher will not be able to create a pass during a blackout schedule either. So we had some requests for that. So that means that teachers cannot override blackout schedules either. And in this case, let's go back to my dashboard. Bart still has that pass, and that one. Now, normally Bart, because under my Hall Pass Manager, under settings, normally there'd be the 60-minute wait time between created passes. So Bart would not be able to create a pass right now anyways, but that's been turned down to 1 minute. So I'll come over and try to create a pass with Bart. And Bart cannot create a pass. And that's because the blackout schedule is active right now. And I also turned off teachers and staff can bypass blackout schedules. So if I log out, and come back in as Marge again, who's one of our teachers. And I go through the same workflow. Now I'm going to create a fountain pass. The Bart. You'll see that the teacher cannot override this pass now as well, because a blackout window is currently active. We also updated a lot of our notes and pop-ups and notification windows with updated messaging so that they are a little clearer on how they work or why they're being applied. So students, of course, we never tell why they get denied passes because we don't want them to have information to try to circumvent the reason they're being denied passes, if it's a pass list, blackout schedule, anything else like that. But teachers and staff, we do give information to on why passes aren't being created. So lots of changes to the blackout window. The way that your blackout schedule, because we also obviously had to port your blackout schedules that you had existing into the new system, might look a little confusing, but take a look and open it up and you should see your existing settings in there still. And of course, as always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate, reach out to your CEM at support@minga.io and set up some time and they'd be happy to go through this with you. Or you will be doing some, I think, Georgia, you already have a handful of Hall Pass training sessions on the calendar, right? You're still muted, or I can't hear you.
I'm not muted.
Oh, there you are. Now I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, we have live sessions in the calendar, but if you need a private session to talk about it, we absolutely can. There have been a couple of questions, Jason, with the settings you've been showing. Which roles can make those changes?
Ooh, that's a good question. So admins and managers are able to, now I'm logged in as a teacher. So I just logged in as a teacher and you'll notice that I can only see the dashboard and my reports. Admins and managers can make changes to Hall Pass settings, types, and restrictions.
Yeah, and another question here about the individual access for different groups of students on types.
Yeah, that's the last one we're gonna get into right now.
Great.
So let's see. I'm gonna log back in as my administrator, pop back into the Hall Pass Manager. Let's see, I'll just add one more student here that I can log in as. Oh, Homer's a student. Oh, Lisa's a student. She's a good student, so we'll use Lisa. So on the last one that I have here on my list to go through today is our hall pass type setting updates. So this is now under types and gives me the ability to, the first one is restrict passes to a specific group of students. So in this case, let's restrict our health pass, which is already a student created pass. You'll see a few new settings on here. On the hall pass types. These two allow you to ignore restriction periods, like ignore blackout windows or ignore limits. So in this case, we're going to set up our health pass so that the students that have access to it can use this pass whenever they want, as many times as they want. So we'll be ignoring blackout and ignoring the limits on this pass, but only certain students are allowed to use it. So in this case, you could upload a list of those students, but Lisa is allowed to use this pass. And you'll see that there's that one person for Lisa's allowed to use that pass. But Bart is not allowed to use this pass. So I'm logged in over here on this screen as Bart Simpson. So when I go to Student Tools to create a hall pass, I no longer see access to that wellness pass because Bart is not included on the list of students that is allowed to have the access to that pass. So I could try to create my restroom pass, but remember, we're also in a blackout window right now. So Bart cannot create his pass at all. I log out as Bart. I log in as Lisa. So you'll see I'm Lisa now up here. There's my Lisa student. And I go to as Lisa to create a hall pass, and there you go. My health pass is available to Lisa. Now, if Lisa tried to create a restroom pass right now, restroom passes are not ignoring restrictions. So that means Lisa cannot create a restroom pass because she has access to the restroom pass down here, but restroom passes do not ignore blackouts or limits. So Lisa's restroom pass is still not going to ignore that. But if I create a health pass, then Lisa should be able to create her health pass. Well, what is going on there? Making me look silly. Oops. The settings did not take effect for some reason. Maybe I forgot to save it when I turn those on. So now Lisa creates her pass, and Lisa is able to create that health and wellness pass. It has been restricted just to her, but now is also ignoring the blackout window. So Lisa can create this pass at any time in as many quantity as she wants. And you can, if you didn't want it to have any quantity, you could turn off ignore limits, and then it would be limited to just the numbers of passes she's allowed to create, or global pass limits on campus. And if you wanted it to still operate within blackout windows, then just turn that off. So I can save that pass now. I'll end her current pass. and Lisa. Let's see, because I set it up now so that her health pass is not ignoring blackout windows. So she's no longer able to create that pass during this blackout window. So lots of nuances depending on students that have maybe specific learning plans that would give them access to a health office, or say media students that, you know, you want to be able to create passes to go out and take photos and stuff like that, but not make those passes available to other students. And just to cover off some of the other changes that have come out recently, you can also update the default pass times specifically for per pass, so that will override the default time setting in the global setting. You can also set limits of maximum numbers of simultaneous passes per pass type. So, you know, if you have a particular washroom, and this is, you know, the West washroom, and that is a 5-minute pass, but we only want 3 people at a time to have access to that pass. And it's still a student created pass, and then we can turn that on. And under restrictions, I'll just make our blackout schedule. I turned off our blackout schedule so that we can still create passes. And in that case, to create that hall pass, of course, when you create passes, make sure to make them active. Now that hall pass is able to is showing up here for Lisa because it's student created. And she should be able to create that pass. Yep. And we see that show up on the dashboard now for West Washroom. And this pass again will only be available for 3 people at a time. So once we have 2 more people created, the 4th person won't be able to create a pass. So that is covering off the bulk of the updates here. There's lots of little nuances in reporting. You will definitely see some new stuff, so stay tuned for you know, the training classes. Jump into a training class, reach out to your CEM, where you always appreciate feedback, you know, like what's working great for you, or always constructive feedback on like what things can we be doing better to help. So don't hesitate to reach out at any time. That one-stop connection to your dedicated CEM is always support@minga.io. And I'm going to stop sharing here and just share a little bit more on what's coming up. There it is. So many windows up, I keep losing everything.
If it might be possible to cover that.
Sorry, Georgia, what was that?
There've been some requests to cover the overdue reporting.
Okay. That's, yeah, I might not be, I should have set some up so that they were already overdue, so they would have rolled through a reporting window, because I might not be able to do that, but I can try.
Okay. If not, we'll cover it in training, everybody.
Let's see, let me share this. So under reports now, as an admin, I have a new pass. So if I want to take a look at the students with the most overdue, you know, hall passes, Oh, there we go. Now I'm getting some data under overdue hall pass summaries. So basically what this report is going to show me is for all my students on campus, who has the most amount of overdue time, and it is filterable. So you can filter from highest to lowest. Keep in mind that this reporting, it can be at most an hour behind. So because we do a reporting process every hour that rolls up all the data into the reporting interface. So there might be a little lag here. So that's why, right now as I'm doing it and we're just doing the demos and I just created this school for this demo, I'm not seeing a lot of data here. But that reporting overdue hall pass summary is going to show you all your students with the most time overdue. And yeah, then of course the overdue time will still count in the data for their total time outside of the classroom. So that means that time out of the classroom now will be the hall pass time plus the overdue time is what will be showing up for their total time out of the class. And if I looked at a hall pass history for, let's see, all my students. There's Lisa, and I looked at Lisa's hall pass history. This pass hasn't been ended yet, but you'll see that Lisa is, showing her total hall pass time here. So this one was 9 minutes, even though it was a 5-minute pass. Actually, it was a 1-minute pass. It's showing up as there's 9 minutes of data in the hall pass here from start to finish. So hopefully that is helpful for the overdue pass reporting. Overdue pass is basically, remember when I create, even with manually ended passes, a student is still creating a pass time, so that they're creating a 5-minute pass. That 5-minute expires. Now it's an overdue pass for however long until it gets ended by a teacher or if it's turned on by the student. So that overdue pass time is the time between when the pass, that 5 minutes that the pass was created for. So from that point until the pass was ended would be counted as the overdue time. And I hope that helps. George, I'll let you jump on that one there. And I'll just come back to my last screen there. So just a little more on what's coming up. Right now we just released the Hall Pass 2.0 update for Minga 6.7, and there's some design updates and stuff in there. And right now we are working on some new dashboards, some new Minga statistics. So you'll have some global stats on Minga. We are also going to be investing a lot into different options for rostering, so that we want 95% of our schools to be automatically rostering for the 23-24 school year, which means that all your adds, deletes, and changes for students will be automatically synchronizing with your student information system. Part of that support is via an option called SFTP, and that might be something you're familiar with or your IT team is familiar with, but just keep in mind that for the objectives for next year is that we want as many of our schools as possible to be automatically rostering, so that you're not having to manually add, delete, or update student information in Minga. And on the PBIS system, we're working on some functionality for auto detentions. So that will do detention tracking, but also automatically assign detentions. Say, for an example, every 5 tardies that get tracked, we'd like to, create a detention for that student, and then the ability to track and manage those detentions and when those detentions are served. And in May of this year, in time for the new school year, we will also be releasing our flex time module. So for anyone running flex periods or advisory periods, we will have a new module to be able to manage that right inside of Minga. And that will include everything from, viewing the schedule of when flex periods or advisory periods exist, allowing teachers to offer activities during those flex periods, assign students to specific flex periods, or let students register for activities during a particular flex window, and then ties right into the check-in module to do all the attendance for those flex periods as well. So you have accountability on which students attended where, and everything else like that. And there's ability to limit the size of an activity. So a teacher can say only 10 students can participate or register for this. And it will all be built right into Minga, into the calendar component, as well as the check-in component. So we'll give you end-to-end management for flex time. And for anyone using solutions out there, it will be at, in line with a little, in line with our other module pricing. So should be very, very cost-effective solution as well for everyone for flex and advisory periods. Thank you all so much for attending today. I know there was a lot to cover. We are very excited to see you take advantage of some of the new features we have in hall passes. And one last time, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, to your CEM directly at support@minga.io. And thank you all for all your support and input this year. And we can't wait to get some feedback from you. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you, Georgia.